Hello friends and welcome to Shauna Stitches. I'm Shauna and this is my crafty podcast where I talk about all the things that I've been working on lately. Today is May the 25th, 2022 and this is episode number 49. I keep looking at my notes because I actually typed up show notes. That's insane. The reason I had to do that is because it's been like 2 months since I last podcast and that was not my intention. I just kept thinking I had nothing to talk about, and I come to find out now I have like a whole stack of things to talk about, and I'm not even going to talk about everything. Anyway, if you are new here or if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here with me, and I really appreciate you spending some time here. What do I want to talk about first? I guess I'll say that, and I've said this before, that I really plan on podcasting more frequently. But there's been a couple things that have been holding me up from doing that, and I finally just had to bite the bullet and do it. The first thing is that I tend to feel like if I podcast more often, I don't have a lot to talk about. So then I'm hesitant to even start, when in reality, probably a 15-minute podcast isn't the worst thing ever. It's certainly better than a 0 podcast. And it's probably better for my memory than waiting forever and having a ton of stuff to talk about. So that's the goal. I can't say it's going to happen, but in a perfect world, that will happen. The second thing that holds me back is that sometimes I just don't feel very presentable to the camera. Like, I'm not dressed a certain way. I don't look a certain way. In fact, this morning I just got off of a 12-hour graveyard shift, so if I look a little disheveled, that's why. If I look sleepy, that's why. I thought about doing my hair, but I didn't, so I didn't. I'm drinking plain black coffee from my Keurig in my I Love Coffee mug, and this has some cute cabley knit stitches on it. This was from Kohl's years ago. No idea if it's still available. Oh, I feel rusty, guys. Somehow today I feel more rusty than when it was like 2 years since I'd podcast. I don't understand it. Anyway, let's dive right in. I'm going to try and do my finished objects in the order that I finished them, at least according to my Ravelry notes. This is the order. The first one I have to show you are these DK weight socks that are stripy. I do have a pair, but I was running out of blockers, so one's on and one's off. Like I said, these are DK weight. I ended up holding fingering double to make a DK weight, which worked out perfectly. These are the, I'm not sure I'm going to say this right, the Gadsden socks. I don't know that reference. And it's a pattern by Andre Sue Knits. You can find her on Instagram or Ravelry. And these were published in the latest Blocked magazine. So I think that'd be the May issue of Blocked, which is issue 3. And I did these as a test knit. So I ended up having to do, because they're toe up, I did my foot a little longer than the pattern, which meant that I had an odd number of stripes. So my heels, toes, and cuffs are in alternating colors, which I think is actually really cool. I'm calling these my Cheshire Cat socks because they're Cheshire Cat colors. And the main reason for making them in these colors was because it was some solid yarn that I have. I don't really have many solids, which maybe I'll talk about later, but it's definitely lacking in my stash, and I wish I had more solids. In retrospect, I've bought a lot of speckles and variegated and really fun yarns, but these are the workhorses. This is, stuff that you actually want to wear. Granted, on feet, I don't really care, but when it comes to a pattern like this, speckles could look a little strange or variegated. The yarn is Lion Brand Sockies, and the purple is Grape Soda, and the pink is Lollipop. I used a 3.25 millimeter needle, which is a US 3, and these took 573 yards. Because like I said, it's doubled, so if you were using an actual DK weight, it'd be half that, which is, I can't do math, 2 something, 2, I don't know. I'm not even going to guess. You can do the math. But I do like an extra, excuse me, an extra long leg. So you could definitely get away with using, I'm sure, just one skein of DK weight. The next socks that I finished, and I think these were a whip last time. I didn't go back and watch, but I think so. These are my Scrappy Opal DRK everyday socks. And I was knitting these for the Easy Peasy Scrappy Socks KAL. Again, I do have 2 of them. And I have figured out how to modify this pattern to be 64 stitches, which I love. That's my stitch count for socks. The pattern has either 60 or 68, which I could make it work, but I just like 64. So what that means when I modify, because these are toe up again, when you start the gusset, it means that on one side I will increase with either the knit and then the opposite side's the purl, or vice versa, where I understand why the pattern was written the way it was, because for those stitch counts you increase a knit on each side or a purl on each side, and for pattern writing, for simplicity, that of course is easier. But for fit, these are perfect for me. It's a Flegel heel, and that took me some math to figure out. I'm not sure that I still have it 100% correct, but it's good enough that I can get these to fit, and I don't know, they work. So these are completely scrappy, except for I accidentally started the toe on the same color, because these are the Opal minis, so they're just random. And even in the little balls, they can look different when they're the same. So I did not mean to pick the same color at the toe, but I did. And they're fun. And I really, this you will see here in a second, this is my current go-to pattern. I used to be a complete cuff down person. I never did toe up. I wasn't happy with knowing where to start the gusset. I preferred cuff down because I could do the heel and then just know where to start the toe. That was easier for me. But this pattern has changed everything. I love toe up. I still love cuff down just fine, but toe up is my preferred lately. And I just love it because you can use as much yarn as you have. So you can make an extra long sock, a short sock if you run out. It just works so well. All right, the next are a pair of Scrappy socks that I made for my husband. Now you'll notice these look a little bit different. This is the DRK everyday sock pattern. Do you notice what's different? It has no ribbing. So I did this all in stockinette, but it's the exact same pattern. I should mention I use a 2.25 needle on all of my socks unless they're color work or cabled. But on my husband's, I always use a 2.5 millimeter, which is a US 1.5, and 72 stitches. And that's how I can get the right fit for his feet. But again, it has a Flegel heel. And these are done using the Crazy Sock Lady, Kay from Crazy Sock Lady, her sock recipe. And she does hers cuff down, which means that you have to do a lot of math to figure out the toe. But if you do these toe up, it works so well, because you can knit your stripes as many rows as you want, do your foot until you know the right calculations for you, and then you can do the stripes as long as you want for here. So it's no math, which is perfect for me. I was so happy with these that I did a pair for myself. I used the same exact base color yarn, and after doing his pair, which I can't remember exactly, I want to say his for the gray here took like 68 grams, not including the minis, and I had 43 grams left, and I do remember that that's the case. I had exactly 43 grams left, and I was so worried I was playing yarn chicken, but I did it. I got my nice tall socks, which I tend to like about 90 rounds for the leg. That doesn't include the cuff, so about 110 total. I think I like them tall because I am tall and my ankles tend to be skinny, so fit width-wise is not an issue. I don't know. I just like tall socks. But my friend, I'm blanking on her actual real name. I know her Instagram name because that's what I always look for. It's Kaja of Sweden. I'm probably still not pronouncing that correctly, but it's Kaja of Sweden. She wanted to knit along. So we started these May 1st, and I think we both finished around May 18th. And it was a lot of fun. So what I did differently between my husband's pair and my pair is for his, I did 4 rounds for the foot and 8 rounds for the leg. And I still had a ton of yarn left because I used 10-gram minis for each of the stripes. With his, I still had something like 6 grams left, and that's on a very large sock. So for mine, I did 5 rounds for each of the foot stripes, and I believe it was 13 rounds for the leg. Yes, 13, because 13 times 7 turned out to be 91, I think. Again, I'm not doing the math, so if that's wrong, you can do the math, you figure it out. I still had like 4 or 5 grams of each one left, which to me is just crazy. I don't understand how a 10-gram mini can seemingly go on forever when at other times I'm knitting and I feel like I'm running out of yarn. So it's magic. I don't know. Again, these were toe up. These are the DRK everyday socks without the ribbing. And I just love that I didn't have to worry about running out of room for all my stripes here at the foot. What else can I say about these? Oh, I did try out some methods to reduce jogging, and it was hit or miss because at times I forgot. There I definitely forgot. There you can see I did pretty good. It does make a big difference in how it looks, and granted, it doesn't really matter, but I think it looks nicer when you don't have that jog. So the way I did that was you switch colors, you knit around, and on the second round, you're going to lift the lower right leg stitch up onto it. So it's a contrasting color, and you knit those 2 stitches together as your first stitch. I don't know how that magic works, but it does. Look at that purple stripe. It's like perfect. Or even here, perfect. Not so perfect. Functional, but just not as visually appealing. So for these, big tall socks on my size 9 women's US foot, I used 338 yards total. That was, I literally had a gram left, maybe of the gray, so it was perfect. And then with the stripe yarn too. All right, the last finished objects I have to show you are completely adorable. And I think I had one of these done the last time I podcast, but I didn't double check. So this is the pair I think I had done, or at least had one sock done. And I modified the DRK everyday sock pattern to be baby size. I just did some math, which I'm noticing a trend here. I don't like math, but I can do math. So when it benefits me, I can do it. But these are just super cute. You can fold the little cuff down, or they could wear them long. I mean, I don't have a baby to model, so I'm not sure. That might be a really long leg. But as they grow, because I estimate that this should fit between a 1-month and a 6-month size. And this pattern, again, is so versatile because these have been on the sock blocker for quite some time. But you can see it really cinches down. So I feel like it will fit a wide range of baby foot sizes. These are a gift that still needs to be mailed. The one project I'm not going to show, but I will just briefly mention, is that I am making a quilt. I successfully finished my first quilt. I'll try and remember to put in some photos, but I'm still working on the binding of the second quilt. I just kind of ran out of steam and haven't been motivated, which stinks because, you know, babies don't wait for you. Also, babies can use quilts beyond day 1, so it works. Anyhow, so these are finished. And I also have a second pair. Aren't they so cute? So those other ones were Patton's Croy. These are a ice yarns in a magic sock color. It's stripy, nothing special. They're not matchy-matchy, but they're close to matching. So anyhow, I think those are cute. I didn't take note of how many yards the Patton's Croy was. It was more for the Patton's Croy, but the thinner sock yarn is 57 yards total for these. And they're both the same size. All right, on to whips. See, we're 15 minutes in. I think we're making good time. I hope I'm just not like breezing through stuff. I will say, I always forget to say this, you can find projects pages for all of my projects on Ravelry. I take really detailed notes. For example, if you wanted to modify your DRK Everyday Socks to be 64 stitches like mine, or a different number than what's in the pattern, I don't go into a lot of detail, like you would still need the pattern to make them, but if you're just looking for some guidance on that, it's in there. I've talked about how to modify the Flegel heel, or how I've been doing it for that stitch count, and pretty much any project. I'm going to have for sure needle size, probably what size I'm making, the yarn. If it's a finished project, I'll have how much yardage I used. Anyway, I just like to be thorough like that, and it works for me. So yes, on to whips, like I said. Another theme to this podcast is that I have a lot of Andrea Mowry patterns. And this is another one. This is the Attune Shawl on a very short needle. So I can't really show it great. But it's a half fisherman's rib, that's this side here, and a half brioche. Not even half, I guess there's more fisherman's rib than brioche, but they just grow at different rates. Making sure I don't lose stitches. I love this project. I do and I don't. It feels like it takes forever to finish one repeat, so I haven't been working on it a whole lot. Also of note, let's see if I can find it now. There's a spot in here. Yes, right there. You'll notice one section does not look like the others, and I forgot an increase right here, and I probably realized that maybe here, or let's see, it goes the other way, probably down here. Anyway, I didn't care enough to rip back. Yes, my stitch counts won't be exact, but this pattern is very forgiving, and when it comes to finishing this portion of it, it goes just into garter rows, so that's going to be amazing, and that stitch count won't matter, so I think we're good to go. The yarn I'm using is a very old acquisition. This is Knit Picks Chroma Twist that they don't make anymore. Excuse me. In the Dear Diary color, and it's gray and pink marley. It looks so much like hand spun. And just a, excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. Oh. Even my throat, or my voice is getting tired. It's been up too long. The other is just an undyed yarn from Dyer Supplier? Yes, Dyer Supplier, which I've really gotten a lot of this undyed yarn because I find it's so versatile in my projects. You can dye it, or, excuse me. All right, as I was saying, you can use it undyed, you can dye it, or, you know, any number of things. And it's nice to have on hand because I find that being able to use this with other stuff in my stash makes it easier to stash down. It's kind of weird to buy something to stash down, but it really does help. At least I have found it to be helpful. So I am on page 2 of my notes, and I'm knitting this on a 3.5 millimeter, which is a US 4. No idea when that will be finished, but someday. My next whip, which I haven't worked on in a bit, but I am really anxious to get back to, is the Ponderosa Sweater by Wool and Pine. And it doesn't look like a sweater yet, does it? This is a cable-y sweater. The front is cabled and the back is just plain stockinette. It's a little bit easier to show upside down. I am enjoying this pattern so much. Learning to cable without a cable needle is a game changer. I find it so much easier and faster and effective. So anyway, this is a seamed sweater. It's the first swim sweater first seamed sweater I've ever knit, so I'm a little nervous for the joining technique or the sewing technique, whatever you call that, but there's some tutorials. Hopefully it'll be okay. I am knitting this in this beautiful tealy yarn, which is not showing up correctly on the screen. What you see there is more blue, and it is definitely more of a teal green in real life. I am alternating every 2 rows, which I think is working out really well. I have 4 skeins total, so hopefully that's enough. And it's my very good friend's yarn company, which is Candy Skein, and it's in the Yummy Fingering base in the color Brain Freeze. So I'm very excited to have this. I just think it's a boxy sweater, and granted I obviously can't stretch it out, but I just think it's going to be really, really pretty, and I think I look good in this color. It's one of my colors, I think. Up next is in a Ziploc bag. It's a very new whip, and it's the Ariana cardigan by Amy Christoffers, and I am crocheting these for a MKAL knit along, crochet along by Kristen of Volenvine in her Facebook group. I'm using very old acrylic stash. I will pop in a picture of what the Ariana cardigan should look like when it's all said and done. But I have this tan color, a coral, a gray, and then I'm going to seam it all up in white or cream. I'm not as happy about seaming it up in the cream as I would like to be. I would really like to do it in the gray, but I don't have enough, and this is a stash down project. I am not buying yarn for it, so it's nice when you can make something work from your stash. And I don't know if I will wear a crochet cardigan, but I like the idea, first of all, of using stash and joining in a MKAL. I always find that to be fun, so that's the plan for that. All right, the next thing and the last whip that I'm going to show is a MKAL, which is a mystery KAL. I don't think it's too much of a mystery, and I don't think there's anyone who's going to be too upset about seeing it, but I will give you the name of the KAL, and if for some reason you don't want to see it, you can probably go ahead and just leave us here. I have a few things to talk about afterwards, but nothing major, and no finished objects or works in progress. So the name of the KAL is the Oregon Coast Shetland Lace MKAL by Tony L. Lorenz. I found it on Ravelry, and some of you may know, and maybe you don't know, but I'm going to tell you that I live on the Oregon coast, and when I saw the name of this shawl, I just had to join in. I was so compelled to join, not only because it's called the Oregon Coast Shawl, but because I lost my train of thought. Because I'm going to learn how to bead, that's why. So there's no beads in it yet. I am going to show the project, so if you don't want to see, look away. We are through the 3rd clue. It's coming out every other week. So actually, this is the top here. This is what will go around my neck. And it's lace, so it's not the easiest thing to show, and it's not blocked yet. But I am using one of those ginormous self-striping cakes, which a lot of companies make these. This is cotton and polyamide or acrylic. And I'm telling you, I really am not a cotton user, but this is so soft. This is not like your dishcloth cotton at all. Helps if I show the right part. Where is it? There we go. It is Hobby Twister, and it's in the color Raindrop, I believe. Nope, it doesn't tell me on here. It's color 46, but on the website it did say it's color Raindrop. And I felt the colors and the name were very fitting for the Oregon coast. And I didn't bring my beads over, but by the time I get to the beaded section, which is the very last part, it's the border, I should be to the gray, some portion of the gray, and my beads are kind of they almost look like an oil slick kind of tealy blue, purple, different color. So I think that'll look really nice. Again, I can't really show you a whole lot, but there's some really pretty lace in here. There you go, you can kind of see. And it's been really fun. The the Ravelry group for this, which is called Knitting in the Loft, is such an amazing group of people. I couldn't tell you how many people are actually in there. There's about 50 or so Ravelry projects, and I don't know if everyone that's participating made a project page, but just a very nice people, very helpful, and it's always so nice to find a group like that. Very welcoming to new people too, which is awesome. Okay, I do have one acquisition to show, and I'm so in love with it. This is going to be some future knitting. This is yarn by Knitty McPurley Yarn Co. And I saw this on her website, and not on her website, on her podcast, and went immediately to her website, and she was sold out. And I messaged her and said, will you do a custom order for me? And she was so nice, so fast, and she said yeah, she would do it. And the color is called Light Rose Gold. It's a pinky tan. Rose gold is my color. I don't know why, because I've never really been into gold. Like my phone case is rose gold, my computer case and my computer are rose gold. I don't know, it's my thing. And when I saw this, I knew I had to have it. And I have 4 skeins, fingering weight. My plan for this someday is going to be a wool and honey. I just think the color is, I mean, it's like it'd be a light honey color, but it's in that line of, I don't know, color. And I think it's gonna be so pretty. I can't wait. I've wanted to do that sweater for a long time, but never had a specific yarn I wanted to use for it or anything. So I'm excited to have found that, and really want to cast on right away, but I am going to hold off on that for a while. It's not going anywhere. The yarn will be there. So speaking of not casting that on right away, a little bit of life stuff and future plans is that I have decided, and you're going to laugh because if you've watched the other episodes, you've heard similar things before, and then I get sidetracked. But my plan going forward is to shop my stash, shop the patterns I already own, and shop my whips. So those are 3 things that I really need to focus on. They're a bit out of control. I feel like I just don't have as much time as I would like to dedicate to knitting and crafting. Plus I have so many things I like to do. I like to spin. I've recently taken up English paper piecing, which I forgot to bring. I should grab it, but I'm not gonna do that today. I'll show you in the future. I haven't worked on it in a bit, but I have worked on it since the last podcast. So spinning, knitting, picked up crochet again. I've been quilting. It's just so many crafts in so little time. So sad. Unfortunately, my hobby does not pay my bills, so I have to work. And along the lines of shopping my already owned possessions is that I am doing the Uncluttered course by Joshua Becker. It's only week 3. I'm supposed to be decluttering my living room and my car this week. And it's going okay. The first 2 weeks were more getting your mindset right. In the very first week, you come up with, not really a mission statement, but like your why. Why do you want to do this? And then, sad to say, I can't remember what week 2 was. Oh, week 2 was just kind of like building a little momentum. You walk through and just pick up really obvious stuff that you want to get rid of that's just been laying around for no reason. And then, like I said, this week is the living room and the car. And then you go room by room from there. It's a 12-week course. Again, they have a Facebook group. Everyone is super supportive, and I don't know. I don't ever expect to be like a minimalist, but I realize that my stash is getting out of hand. My whips are getting out of hand. Lately, if I don't finish, like, I'll just find something new and shiny before I finish it, before I finish an old project, and I'll put it down, and then I'll go to something new, and it's just a cycle. And I've noticed the same thing in my buying, especially with new patterns. I'll see a new pattern come out, I fall in love with it. I realize I don't have anything in stash that I want to use for that project, so I go in search of the perfect thing. I find what I believe to be the perfect thing way faster than I can knit, and then it comes into my home. And it's funny because I can look back at all these projects that I have yarn for, that I have done this exact process, fallen in love, found the yarn, bought the yarn, and I'm just going to cast it on right away. And it keeps happening. So I have this stash built up. I still love the patterns. I still love the yarn. I still really want to make the object, and I just need to slow down, finish some things. And I think going forward, once I do have whips cleared, once I am more in this mindset, my plan will be really to work on like one or two things at a time. And that might be boring for podcasting, but I will be able to talk more in depth about what I'm doing, any alterations I'm doing, which at this point in my garment making career are not a lot because I'm not super well versed. But it should help me to also, I think, finish things faster, even though it might feel like it's slower. I know it's confusing, but anyway, hopefully that makes sense. And I feel like I'm not the only knitter out there or crafter out there who can plan for projects and buy for projects much faster than they can finish them. In a perfect world, one day when my stash is used up, I would love to just shop for one thing at a time. And that would just, with like maybe a little bit of sock yarn in stash that I can just grab and go and cast on real quick. But that's a perfect world, and that is probably, well, for sure years down the road. I don't know how long it will take, and it's hard not to buy things you fall in love with, like that Knitty McPurley yarn. Oh my gosh, I just felt that I needed it. So yeah, it's not easy, but maybe you want to join me in shopping your stash, shopping your patterns, and shopping your whips. And some of those may get frogged, but I just need to face the music and quit accumulating things and having them stack up. And like I said, in the whole uncluttered thing, they just become clutter. They're stacked up places. They're not neatly put away. It's a mess. And by the time you get back to them, it's so hard to figure out where you left off exactly and what size you were making, and is that still the right size? And there's just a whole lot of problems, it seems to be, with waiting so long to finish things. One last thing I will mention, one plan that I do have to start something new, even though I just said I'm not going to, is a pair of, well, I'm going to make multiple pairs of socks, but my best friend she just told me the other day, she goes, "You knit all these socks, and why have you never knit socks for me?" And quite honestly, you know how it is. Not everyone is knit worthy. And I'm not saying she's not knit worthy because I've knit her shawls and I've knit her, I think, a hat. But I feel like maybe not everyone loves hand knit socks. I don't know. So this is going to be the first pair. I have a West Yorkshire Spinners Gray, which is the color Poppy Seed, and a Felici in the color Friendly Skies. And I'm going to make the Rainbow Connection socks. I had a plan for what I was going to make with the second pair, because I think I can get 2 pairs out of this. And I bought, I don't know if it's the most recent Felici collection, but I bought 1 skein of each color because they did have like a little pack or kit that you could get. So I have to be kind of creative in how I use these. One of my ideas, though, which I think is a fabulous idea, is I'm going to try and use this to do the Crazy Sock Lady recipe, the Scrappy socks, but with this. So do 1 color sequence for after the toe, and then do a solid color up to the leg, and maybe either do 1 or 2 repeats of the color sequence for the leg. I'm not sure exactly how many color sequence sections come in one of these, so that'll be something I have to figure out, but I like that idea because then there's scrappy but not scrappy and way less ends. So that's my upcoming hack to that. I think it'll work out well. So hopefully my best friend loves hand knit socks and I can start knitting some for her, because I just did a count the other day, and first of all, I washed 56 pairs of socks. I will post that photo right here. That was a lot. I have started to wash them in the washing machine. My washing machine has a cycle for hand wash, and I think I just did them on warm. I used wool wash. The great thing about it is that you can use the spin cycle. I wouldn't do that for hand spun socks, and I wouldn't do that for non-superwash, but I've had no issues whatsoever doing it with my regular sock yarns. And then I don't do them through the dryer, I just hang them to dry, which is the picture that you've just seen, or that you're still seeing, is all of them hanging up to dry. So that was 56 pairs, which is crazy. I hadn't washed them in quite some time. In fact, I found socks that I wore during December for my Christmas socks that I just hadn't washed. I guess that's part of having a lot of pairs, and I don't always wear them in my work boots just because I found sometimes the texture can be uncomfortable for long periods of time. Anyway, also, I have knit, I think 98 or finished 98 pairs of socks, because I have started more than that. So it's about time, or it'll be nice to knit for someone else. My in-laws are also very knit worthy, so I'd like to knit them some socks, and Glenn doesn't have as many pairs as me. So I have people I can knit for. I seem to be okay with having yarns that I love and just having the experience of knitting them, but then being able to gift them. I definitely have found over the years that I am a process knitter for the most part. I'm very, very rarely a project knitter. I will love the project, but then I rarely wear the things that I actually make, even though I love it. So I'm trying to learn how to incorporate these things into my wardrobe a little bit more. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I can't think of anything else. I feel like I've rambled on. Hopefully I've made some sense. And if I haven't made sense, I blame it on the fact that I worked all night last night. So yeah, I've been up since 3 p.m. yesterday, and it is currently almost 9 a.m. So anyways, have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks again for joining me. Bye.